Hey guys, tonight we're taking a journey. You're lying in your bed right now, sinking into that familiar mattress, maybe fluffing your pillow just so. The sheets feel cool against your skin and the air is still. But what if I told you that the very idea of a bed as you know it is a relatively new invention? What if the ground beneath you, the hard, unyielding earth, was your ancestors' only option? You might have had a few soft leaves, maybe a pile of ferns, but mostly you were a creature of the earth itself, finding a hollow or a small, sheltered depression. You'd have to be on alert for predators, the cold, and the damp. You'd be exposed to the elements, and even a simple night's rest would be a struggle for survival. The modern bed is a haven, a fortress of comfort, and a product of thousands of years of human ingenuity. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, if you're listening, drop a comment with your location and the time, and let's see just how far this little historical journey reaches tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine you are a hunter-gatherer living some 77,000 years ago in what is now South Africa. You're tired. The sun is setting, casting long purple shadows across the landscape. The cool night air is beginning to creep in, and you're looking for a place to rest your weary body. You can't just lie down anywhere. The ground is often cold and unforgiving. So, what do? You find a small cave or a sheltered overhang, and you begin to gather materials. You're not building a bed in the modern sense, but a kind of mattress, or rather, a proto-bed. You're gathering reeds and sedges, piling them into a thick mat. You might top this with fragrant, insect-repelling leaves from certain plants. It's not much, but it's a barrier between you and the hard, cold ground. This is our earliest known evidence of a constructed bed, and it was found in the Sibidu cave in South Africa. The layers of plant material, some reaching up to 12 inches thick, suggest that these weren't just temporary resting spots. They were used again and again, offering a consistent, if basic, level of comfort and protection. So, while we often think of beds as wooden frames and fluffy mattresses, the reality is that the bed began as a simple, thoughtful act of making a comfortable space. These plant-based beds weren't just for comfort. They were also a form of pest control. The leaves of certain trees, like the wild camphor, were chosen specifically because they contained natural insecticides. This shows an early, intuitive understanding of botany and its uses, a kind of ancient, organic pest management system. Historians still argue about whether these communal sleeping mats were used by entire family units, or if individuals had their own spaces. But the fact remains, even in our earliest days, we were looking for a better night's rest. You can almost hear the soft rustle of the leaves as you settle in, the smell of damp earth and crushed plants filling the air. It's a far cry from a memory foam mattress, but it was a quiet, revolutionary step forward in the history of human comfort. And in a world where every waking hour was a challenge, a good night's sleep was a luxury worth the effort. Think about the simple, repetitive motions. You're gathering the reeds, arranging them, patting them down. The rhythmic sounds of the natural world, the distant cry of an animal, the soft hoot of an owler, your only company. You're not just preparing a place to sleep. You're creating a small, safe haven for yourself and your family. There's a quiet dignity to this process, a testament to the human desire for a little bit of comfort, even when life is hard. It's a reminder that our need for a good night's rest is as old as our species itself. The quiet work of building a bed, however simple, was a daily ritual, a way of putting the world to rights before you closed your eyes. And in the silence of that ancient night, you'd finally be able to let go of the day's worries and simply rest. As time marched on, so too did our sleeping habits. Fast forward thousands of years, and you find yourself no longer in a cave, but in a Neolithic hut, maybe somewhere in ancient Britain or Europe. The air inside is thick with the scent of smoke and cooking, and the only light comes from the central hearth. The ground is still the ground, but you've realized a critical detail. The earth is cold, and the smoke from the fire tends to linger close to the floor. So you start to elevate yourself, not with a fancy frame, of course, but with simple platforms, piles of stones, a raised ledge of earth, perhaps a simple wooden platform if the materials are available. You're not just sleeping on the ground anymore. You're sleeping above it. This simple act changes everything. Now you're warmer, you're further from the damp, and you're even a little safer from the scuttling creatures of the night. It's a small change, but it's the first step toward the bed as we know it today. This elevation wasn't just about comfort, though it was a clear, quiet statement of progress. It showed that you had the time and resources to build something for your own well-being, that you had moved beyond pure survival. These early beds were often communal, a large platform where the whole family would sleep together, huddled for warmth. The hearth, glowing in the center of the hut, was the heart of the home, and the bed was its cozy perimeter. You could hear the crackle of the fire, the soft breathing of your loved ones, and the distant sounds of the night. It's a peaceful scene, one that suggests a new, settled way of life. It's a bit like a modern slumber party, but a lot less chaotic, and with a lot more wool blankets. You'd get to fall asleep to the gentle, hypnotic flicker of the flames, and wake up to the first rays of light filtering through the thatched roof. The materials were still simple, of course. You'd probably have a mattress of woven reeds or rushes, maybe a few animal skins for warmth. The key was the separation from the floor. You can imagine the feeling of relief as you clamber onto your raised platform, the cold, hard reality of the earth receding just a little. It's a very human desire, isn't it? The need to put a little distance between ourselves and the messiness of the world. And so, the bed became a quiet symbol of this desire, a place of retreat and safety. One quirky tidbit from this era. Some historians believe that early Neolithic people also used small portable sleeping bags made from animal hides, which they could roll up and carry with them. This would have been an incredibly practical invention for a society that was still semi-nomadic, a kind of ancient, primitive version of a modern camping bed. It was a bed that could go with you, a tiny piece of home that could be unrolled wherever you needed it. Historians still argue whether these early raised sleeping areas were primarily for hygiene and comfort, or whether they had a social function, elevating certain members of the family or community. Was it the head of the family who got the best spot, or was it a more democratic arrangement? We can't know for sure, but the act of elevating the bed was a step toward a more organized and arguably more comfortable society. It was the first quiet revolution in the history of sleep, a quiet act of defiance against the cold, hard ground. And as you lay there, listening to the soft murmur of the fire and the rhythmic breathing of your family, you would know, deep in your bones, that you had finally found a place to rest. a place that was truly your own. Now, close your eyes and let's leave the Neolithic hut behind. We're traveling forward in time and across the sea, gliding over the Mediterranean until we reach the sun-baked sands of ancient Egypt. Here, the idea of a bed has undergone a complete transformation. It's no longer just a pile of reeds or a raised stone platform. The bed has become something new, a symbol of wealth, status, and even divinity. You find yourself standing in the tomb of an Egyptian pharaoh, surrounded by treasures and artifacts that have lain undisturbed for thousands of years. And there, in the center of it all, is the pharaoh's bed. It's not just a place to sleep, it's a work of art. These beds were elevated, but not for warmth. They were raised to allow air to circulate underneath and to protect the sleeper from snakes, scorpions, and other crawling things on the floor, made of wood-afan, ebony, or cedar. If you were royalty, they were sometimes gilded with gold or inlaid with precious stones. You might find one with legs carved to look like the paws of a lion, a symbol of protection. The sleeping surface itself wasn't a soft mattress, but a simple platform, perhaps topped with a woven mat and a linen sheet, and the pillow. Not a soft, fluffy thing, but a headrest carved from wood or stone, designed to support your neck and keep your head cool in the desert heat. Sounds uncomfortable, doesn't it? But you have to remember, their goal wasn't to sink into softness. It was to support their neck and to keep them cool. And in a climate like that, a cool head was the ultimate luxury. One quirky tidbit from this era is the fact that many Egyptians, especially the poorer classes, still slept on simple reed mats on the floor. Much like their Neolithic ancestors, the bed was a sign of a huge social and economic divide. If you had a raised bed, you were a person of importance, someone who didn't need to fear the scuttling creatures of the night. You could simply float above them, a kind of serene, human island in a sea of potential discomfort. But for the vast majority, the mat on the floor was the standard. So when we talk about the Egyptian bed, we're really talking about a luxury item, not a universal one. It's like the difference between a simple, utilitarian car and a tricked-out luxury sedan. They both get you where you need to go, but one makes a much louder statement. Historians still argue about whether the practice of elevating beds had a deeper spiritual or ritualistic meaning beyond mere practicality. Was it a way of bringing the body closer to the heavens, preparing it for the afterlife? Or was it, as some scholars suggest, simply a very clever way of dealing with the local wildlife and the oppressive heat? The answer, like so many things in history, is likely a mix of both. It's a testament to the fact that even something as simple as a bed can be a window into a culture's deepest beliefs and anxieties. The pharaoh's bed wasn't just furniture. It was a cosmic launching pad, a kind of peaceful vessel to sail into the next world. And as you lie there, on your cool, elevated platform, you can feel a sense of security and peace that your distant ancestors could only have dreamed of. You're not just sleeping. You're reigning over your own personal kingdom of rest. From the towering pyramids and golden tombs of Egypt, we now gently float westward, crossing the sun-drenched sea to the world of ancient Greece and Rome. Here, the bed takes on yet another new life, evolving from a symbol of solitary rest into a piece of social furniture. Forget the idea of a bedroom as a private sanctuary. In this new world, the bed, or more accurately, the couch, becomes the center of a very public, very relaxed social life. You are a wealthy Roman citizen, and it's time for dinner. But you're not sitting at a table with a chair, you're reclining. You're lounging on a kind of daybed called a lectus. This isn't just for sleeping anymore. It's for eating, for drinking, for conversation, and for general relaxation. You'd have a low table, a mensa, in front of you, laden with food and wine. This is where the term recline to dine comes from, and it was the standard way to have a meal for the Roman elite. Imagine the scene: 3 couches arranged in a U shape around a central table. The couches are made of wood or bronze and are often richly decorated. They're topped with soft cushions and draped with colorful fabrics. You're lying on your side, propped up on your left elbow, talking with friends, maybe telling a joke or debating philosophy. It's a far cry from the modern, upright posture we associate with formal dining. It's a much more relaxed, intimate affair. This communal lounging was a core part of Greco-Roman culture. The Greeks called their version a recline, and it was the centerpiece of the symposium, a kind of formal drinking party where men would gather to discuss poetry, philosophy, and politics. So the bed, or the couch that was a bed, was a tool for intellectual and social engagement. It was a place where ideas were born and friendships were forged, all while you were in a state of supreme comfort. One quirky tidbit about this culture is that women were often not allowed at these symposiums. They were expected to be in a separate part of the house, managing the household while the men reclined and philosophized. So while the men were living the life of leisure on their couches, the women were still busy with the duties of the household. A stark contrast that highlights the social inequalities of the time. But even with this, the lectus and recline were revolutionary. They showed a culture that valued comfort and leisure, that saw relaxation not as a passive act, but as an active part of a good life. It's a very different mindset from the survivalist mentality of our earlier ancestors. Historians still argue about whether this reclining posture was purely a matter of custom and comfort, or if it had a deeper social significance. Did reclining at a meal show a person's high social status and freedom from manual labor? Was it a way of signifying that you were a person of leisure, someone who didn't need to rush through a meal? It seems likely that it was all of the above. It was a physical representation of your place in society, a way of saying, I have the time and the means to enjoy my life. So, the next time you eat a meal at a table with a chair, remember the Romans and the Greeks, who found a different way to do things. They found a way to turn the act of eating and talking into a kind of gentle, horizontal dance, all on a piece of furniture that we still, to this day, call a bed. It was a new way of living, one that put comfort and community at the very center of the home. We leave the reclining Romans behind and journey into the dim, drafty halls of the European Middle Ages. Here, the bed undergoes a dramatic shift, returning to its role as a simple, utilitarian piece of furniture. For the vast majority of people, the bed was a humble affair. You'd likely be sleeping on a pallet, simple sack or mattress case filled with straw, chaff, or even feathers if you were lucky. This pallet would be laid directly on the floor, often in the same room as the rest of your family, and maybe even your livestock. The idea of a private bedroom was almost non-existent. You would sleep communally, huddled together for warmth and safety. There were no box springs or ornate headboards, just a simple sack filled with whatever was cheap and available. You can almost feel the prickle of the straw through a rough linen sheet as you try to get comfortable. This communal sleeping arrangement wasn't just a matter of space, it was a matter of survival. In a cold, unheated stone or timber house, the combined body heat of a family was the most reliable source of warmth. You would fall asleep to the gentle sounds of your family's breathing, the lowing of a cow in the corner, and the soft rustle of straw as you shifted in your sleep. It was a close, intimate, and often very unglamorous affair. It was a world away from the opulent, gold-leafed beds of the Egyptians or the silk-draped couches of the Romans. The bed had become a tool for a single, important purpose: survival. One quirky tidbit from this era is the fact that many medieval houses had a daybed or bench in the main hall where people would take naps during the day. So it wasn't just one long, continuous sleep. They had their own version of a power nap, I suppose, often in a very public space. For the wealthy, of course, things were different. They had beds, yes, but these were often large, heavy pieces of furniture that were moved from room to room, a kind of portable status symbol. They were raised on a wooden frame, and the mattresses were often filled with wool or feathers. But even in a lord's castle, privacy was not a given. Servants might sleep in the same room, ready to attend to their master's needs at a moment's notice. The bed was still a very public piece of furniture, a stage on which the drama of daily life was played out. It was a far cry from the modern concept of the bedroom as a private retreat. Historians still argue whether the transition to communal sleeping was a result of economic necessity or if it reflected a deeper cultural value of togetherness and community. Was it simply that there wasn't enough space, or was there a sense of security and companionship in sleeping together? The fact that a wealthy family would still have their servants sleeping in the same room suggests a complex mix of both. You are a part of a larger unit, and your bed, however humble or grand, is a part of that unit, too. It's a very different mindset from the solitary, secluded sleep we crave today. And as you lie there on your straw-filled pallet, you would have been keenly aware of the presence of others, a constant, comforting reminder that you were not alone in the vast, dark world. The gentle creak of the straw, the soft breathing of your family, these were the sounds of your world, your gentle lullaby. As we move out of the communal sleeping arrangements of the Middle Ages, a new era of artistry and individuality dawns, the Renaissance. Here, the bed undergoes a magnificent transformation. It's no longer just a functional object for rest. It's a magnificent work of art, a symbol of power, wealth, and status. You are a wealthy merchant or noble living in Florence or Venice, and your bed is the most important piece of furniture in your entire home. It's not tucked away in a small room. It's often placed in the grandest chamber, a focal point that would impress any guest. Imagine a massive wooden frame carved with intricate details, scenes from mythology, or elaborate floral patterns. The wood itself would be a sign of your wealth, maybe dark walnut or mahogany, polished to a rich, glowing luster. But the bed wasn't just a frame. It was a whole ecosystem of luxury. The mattress would be a thick, overstuffed sack filled with goose down or feathers, a far cry from the prickling straw of the previous era. The sheets would be made of fine linen, and the blankets and coverlets would be rich brocades, velvets, and silks, often embroidered with your family's coat of arms or a personal symbol. And the bed was not complete without a canopy. This wasn't just for show. It was a practical solution to a problem. In a drafty stone castle or an early modern palace, a heavy curtained canopy would keep out the cold air and provide a small, cozy microclimate for the sleeper. It was a kind of room within a room, a private, peaceful sanctuary in a very public world. This move toward extravagant beds was a quiet revolution. It showed a shift from communal living to a new appreciation for personal space and comfort. The bed became a personal stage, a place where the powerful could receive guests, conduct business, and display their immense wealth. A king or queen might hold court from their bed, a testament to their power and a way of making a statement without even getting up. It's a bit like taking a business meeting from a ridiculously expensive private jet, a kind of lazy power move that says, "I'm so important, I don't even need to be vertical to conduct my affairs." One quirky tidbit from this era: the beds were so valuable that they were often listed as a primary asset in wills, and they were passed down through generations, often more valuable than land or property. A bed wasn't just a piece of furniture, it was a legacy, a living piece of your family's history. It had a social and economic value that we can barely comprehend today. Historians still argue about whether this new emphasis on extravagant beds was a true cultural shift towards personal privacy, or if it was simply a more elaborate way of displaying wealth and power. Was the canopy a way to create a private space, or was it just another layer of ostentatious display? It seems to have been a bit of both. The bed was a place of comfort, but it was also a stage. It was a quiet symbol of a new era of individualism, a silent testament to a world where personal wealth and comfort were becoming more important than the simple need for communal warmth. And as you lie there on your soft feather mattress, draped in velvet and silk, you would feel a deep sense of security and a quiet pride in your place in the world. It was a peaceful, luxurious cocoon in the heart of a grand home. From the opulence of the Italian Renaissance, we now travel to the damp, misty climate of Tudor England. Here, a bed becomes not just a symbol of power, but an almost mythical object of a family's legacy. Imagine yourself in the great hall of an English country house. Your eyes are drawn to a massive, imposing piece of furniture, the great Bed of Ware. Now, this isn't just a bed, it's a piece of living history, a colossal piece of furniture that could comfortably sleep not two, not four, but a dozen or more people at once. It was a massive, elaborately carved four-poster bed over 10 feet wide, a true marvel of woodworking. It's a bit like a modern king-sized bed, but multiplied by 3 and carved with the kind of ornate detail that would make a modern carpenter faint with joy. This bed, built around 1590, was not made for a king or queen. It was a tourist attraction, a piece of promotional furniture for an innkeeper to lure travelers and make a name for his establishment. Think of it as the ultimate marketing gimmick, a billboard in bed form. The innkeeper would advertise that you could all sleep together in this famous bed, a novelty that drew travelers from all over England. Can you imagine a dozen strangers or a large, boisterous family all piled into one bed? It's a far cry from the modern idea of personal space, isn't it? But it tells us something important about the era. The boundaries between public and private were much blurrier, and the idea of personal comfort was often secondary to the shared experience. One quirky tidbit about this famous bed is its appearance in Shakespeare's play, Twelfth Night. The playwright mentions the great Bed of Ware as a symbol of something truly enormous and well-known, a kind of cultural reference that everyone in the audience would have understood. It was a pop culture icon of its time, a piece of furniture that was famous for simply being a very, very big bed. This shows how deeply beds and the ideas they represented were woven into the fabric of daily life and art. Historians still argue whether the Great Bed of Ware was truly unique, or if other similarly massive beds existed that have simply been lost to time. Was it a one-of-a-kind oddity, or was it just the most famous example of a larger trend of making beds into social spectacles? It's a question that we may never have a definitive answer to, but its existence tells us that beds could be more than just a place to sleep. They could be a monument, a stage, and a symbol of a culture that was not afraid of getting cozy, even with strangers. So, as you lie there tonight, on your own little island of comfort, spare a thought for those travelers who, in the dim light of a Tudor inn, would have clambered into that vast, communal bed, ready for a night of shared rest and perhaps a few whispered secrets. It was a bed that was a community in itself, a quiet testament to a very different way of life. We glide forward from the boisterous, communal sleeping of the Tudor inn and into the quiet, more refined world of the early modern era. This is where the four-poster bed truly comes into its own, transforming from a quirky spectacle into a standard feature of a well-to-do home. The name is self-explanatory, but the purpose is what's truly interesting. The four-poster bed, with its heavy frame and curtains, was an ingenious solution to a very simple problem: privacy and warmth. You are a wealthy person in a 17th century European home. Your house is a grand affair, perhaps, but it's also a leaky, drafty one. The windows don't seal well, the stone walls hold the cold, and the fireplace can only warm a small corner of the room. You're shivering, and a simple bed is not enough. Enter the four-poster. This wasn't just furniture. It was a kind of micro-architecture, a fortress of comfort and warmth. The bed frame itself would be sturdy, often made of oak or walnut, and at each of its four corners, a tall post would rise, supporting a canopy overhead. From this canopy, heavy curtains of velvet or wool would be draped and drawn around the bed, creating a small, insulated room. You could pull these curtains closed, trapping your body heat inside and keeping the cold drafts out. The bed became a kind of warm, cozy cocoon, a sanctuary from the chill of the house. In a world with no central heating, this was a massive luxury, a quiet, peaceful space where you could truly relax. It was a functional, elegant solution to an everyday problem. But it wasn't just about warmth. The curtains also offered a crucial sense of privacy. In a time when servants might be sleeping in the same room or guests were housed in shared spaces, the curtains of a four-poster bed gave you a space to be alone, to read a book by candlelight, to talk quietly with your spouse, or simply to have a moment to yourself. It was the first true step toward the idea of a private, secluded bedroom. So while we see a lot of these beds in period dramas as a symbol of status, their primary function was surprisingly practical. One quirky tidbit about these beds is that the curtains were so valuable and elaborate that they were often passed down through generations, and many wealthy families had specific sets for different seasons. They were a kind of textile investment, a symbol of family legacy that was seen and used every single day. Historians still argue whether the four-poster bed was an invention born purely out of necessity to combat the cold and lack of privacy, or if its elegance was a way to make a practical solution feel more luxurious. Was it a triumph of form over function, or a beautiful blend of both? It was likely a bit of both. The need was there. and the wealth of the era allowed it to be met with a flair for design and artistry. And as you lie there, surrounded by the soft folds of the velvet curtains, the sounds of the drafty house would fade away, leaving you in a quiet, peaceful bubble of your own creation. It's the first time in our long journey that the bed truly feels like a private sanctuary. As we cross the Atlantic, leaving the opulence of the four-poster behind, we land in colonial America. Here, the bed takes a practical, no-nonsense turn. You are a settler in the 17th or 18th century, and the luxury of the old world is a distant memory. Your home is a simple log cabin or a modest wooden farmhouse. There's no time for ornate carvings or velvet curtains. The bed you build is a simple, functional piece of furniture, designed for one purpose: to get a good night's sleep with minimal fuss. This is the era of the rope bed, a piece of furniture that epitomizes colonial ingenuity and practicality. The rope bed was a simple wooden frame, often made of pine or oak, with holes drilled along the side and end rails. Instead of a solid platform or springs, a network of ropes was crisscrossed through these holes, forming a firm, supportive lattice for the mattress. The mattress itself would be a simple straw or corn husk-filled sack laid directly on top of the ropes. It sounds rough, and it was, but it was also surprisingly effective. The ropes provided a kind of primitive spring system, offering more give and air circulation than a solid plank bed. But there was a catch, of course. The ropes, over time, would sag and stretch, leading to a lumpy, uncomfortable sleeping surface. So, what did you do? You'd grab a specialized tool called a bed key or a bed wrench, a simple wooden tool used to tighten the ropes. The phrase "sleep tight" is often attributed to this very practice, a literal instruction to ensure a good night's rest. This pragmatic approach to furniture highlights the colonial mindset. Everything had a purpose, and there was little room for purely aesthetic extravagance. The rope bed was an exercise in efficiency and self-reliance. It was something you could build yourself with local materials, a testament to the fact that you didn't need a fancy workshop or a team of craftsmen to make a comfortable place to sleep. It was a bed for a society that was constantly moving forward, constantly building, and constantly solving problems on the fly. One quirky tidbit about these beds is that some of them had a removable headboard or footboard, so they could be easily disassembled and moved from place to place. This was a crucial feature for a population that was still very much on the move, a kind of flat-pack furniture for the 18th century. Historians still argue whether the rope bed was a unique American innovation, or if it was a simpler version of European designs. Was it a brand new idea born out of necessity, or a continuation of a long-standing tradition of simple, rope-based support systems? The truth is, like so many things, it was likely a bit of both. It was an adaptation, a simplification, and an example of a culture that valued hard work and practicality over all else. And as you lay there, listening to the gentle creak of the ropes and the soft rustle of the corn husks, you would know, deep in your bones, that this was a bed built for a very different world, a world of quiet, determination, and a little bit of comfort earned through honest labor. As we settle in a little closer to the modern era, leaving the rope beds and colonial practicality behind, we encounter a tiny, persistent problem that plagued sleepers for thousands of years: the bedbug. While we think of them as a modern pest, a sign of uncleanliness, they were a constant, unwelcome companion from ancient times all the way through the Victorian era. In the bustling cities and crowded homes of the 18th and 19th centuries, bedbugs thrived, and they were a fact of life for almost everyone, rich or poor. They were so common that they were considered a nuisance, yes, but not a sign of moral failing. It was just an itchy, annoying reality. Can you imagine settling in for a good night's sleep, only to be joined by a silent, crawling army of tiny insects? It's enough to give you a mild case of insomnia just thinking about it. People tried everything to get rid of them. They would fill mattresses with certain herbs and plants that were believed to repel insects. You'd find mattresses stuffed with everything from tansy to pennyroyal, an aromatic arsenal against a persistent enemy. They would also use fumigation, though it was a dangerous and often ineffective practice. One quirky tidbit from the era is that there were bedbug doctors who would come to your home with their own homemade remedies and concoctions, a kind of specialized pest control that was probably more a form of quackery than effective science. It speaks to the level of desperation people felt to get a good night's rest without being constantly bitten. The problem was so prevalent that it influenced bed design. Iron and brass beds, which became popular in the Victorian era, were partly a response to the bedbug problem. Unlike wooden frames with their nooks and crannies, metal frames had fewer places for the bugs to hide. They were also easier to clean and disinfect, which became a growing concern as the link between hygiene and health became more apparent. So, the sleek, minimalist aesthetic of the metal bed was born out of a very unminimalist problem: a tiny, blood-sucking insect. Historians still argue whether the bedbug problem was a primary driver for the move from wooden to metal beds, or if it was just one of many factors, including new manufacturing techniques and changing tastes. Was it a matter of practicality or aesthetics? It's likely a bit of both. The metal beds looked modern and clean, and the fact that they were also less hospitable to pests was a massive selling point. The bed was beginning to be seen not just as a place for rest, but as a potential source of illness and discomfort. And so, the fight for a peaceful, bug-free night's sleep began in earnest. A quiet war waged with iron frames and pungent herbs. You can almost smell the faint, medicinal scent of those herbs as you settle in. A constant reminder that a good night's rest was often a hard-won battle. As we push forward, leaving the itchy reality of the bedbug problem behind, we arrive at a moment of supreme comfort and quiet luxury. We are in the late 18th or early 19th century, and for the wealthy, the bed is no longer filled with the prickly discomfort of straw or corn husks. It's filled with feathers. The feather mattress arrives, and it introduces a new level of softness that would be instantly recognizable to us today. Imagine sinking into a cloud of down, a plush, enveloping surface that molds to your body. This was a massive upgrade, a quantum leap in comfort. It was the ultimate luxury, a symbol of extreme wealth, since it took an enormous number of feathers to fill a single mattress. It's a bit like a modern-day luxury car, a comfort that most people could only dream of. The process of making a feather mattress was a quiet and tedious one. You'd need to pluck countless geese or chickens, a slow, manual task that would have been done by hand. Then, the feathers would have to be meticulously cleaned and dried to prevent mold and unpleasant smells. The end result, however, was worth it. A feather mattress was not only soft, but it also retained body heat, making it a warm and cozy place to sleep on a cold night. It was a kind of proto-insulation, a fluffy barrier between you and the cold. But of course, it wasn't without its problems. Over time, the feathers would shift and clump together, creating lumps and valleys in the mattress. So, every few months, you would have to take the mattress outside, beat it with a stick, and fluff it up again. A kind of primitive mattress maintenance routine that seems almost absurd to us today. One quirky tidbit about this era is that the phrase "sleep like a log" was often used to describe sleeping soundly, but a different saying, "stuffed with feathers," was a common way to describe someone who was lazy or idle, someone who was too comfortable in their plush bed. This highlights the social tensions of the era and the belief that too much comfort could lead to a lack of ambition. Historians still argue whether the feather mattress was a primary driver for a change in sleeping habits. Did the availability of this new level of comfort lead people to spend more time in bed? Or was it simply a luxury that was adopted by those who already had the time to sleep in? It seems likely that the two went hand in hand. The more comfortable the bed became, the more time people were willing to spend in it. The bed was no longer just a necessity. It was a source of pleasure and relaxation. And as you lie there, sinking into that soft, warm cloud of feathers, you would feel a deep sense of contentment, a quiet acknowledgement that the simple act of sleeping had finally become a truly luxurious experience. It's a feeling of softness that our Neolithic ancestors, sleeping on a pile of reeds, could never have imagined. As the 19th century takes hold, we enter the era of Victorian innovation and a new obsession with sanitation and cleanliness. The Industrial Revolution is in full swing, and everything from clothing to furniture is being reevaluated through the lens of efficiency and health. The bed is no exception. You are a prosperous, middle-class Victorian, and you've just moved into a brand new home. The focus is no longer on ornate carvings or rich fabrics, but on hygiene. You don't want a bed that's a magnet for dirt, dust, and those pesky bed bugs we talked about earlier. You want a bed that's clean, simple, and functional. This is where the sanitary bed truly comes into its own. The rise of public health awareness led to a widespread fear of disease. People were starting to understand the link between cleanliness and health, and this new knowledge influenced everything, including the bedroom. Wooden bed frames, with their many nooks and crannies, were seen as a hotbed for germs and insects. So, a new kind of bed became popular: the brass or iron bed frame. These beds were sleek, minimalist, and, most importantly, easy to clean. You could wipe them down with a damp cloth, and there were no hidden places for pests to hide. They were also relatively inexpensive to produce thanks to new manufacturing techniques, which made them accessible to a much larger segment of the population. The bed was no longer just a luxury item. It was a mass-produced piece of sanitary furniture. This was a quiet, functional revolution. The bed wasn't just a place to sleep. It was a tool for modern living, a symbol of a new era of hygiene and order. The iron bed, with its clean lines and simple design, was a stark contrast to the heavy, ornate, four-poster beds of the past. It was a visual representation of the new Victorian mindset, a belief that progress and cleanliness went hand in hand. One quirky tidbit from the era is that some medical journals of the time even published articles on the proper way to air out a mattress and the benefits of a hard bed for one's posture and health. It was a complete reversal from the feather-soft mattresses of the previous century. Historians still argue whether the move to metal beds was driven more by practical sanitation concerns or by a changing aesthetic that favored the sleek, industrial look. Was it a matter of function or form? The truth is, it was likely a perfect storm of both. The new look was fashionable, and the practical benefits were a powerful selling point. The bed was a part of the great Victorian project to tame the world and make it more orderly and clean. And as you lie there on your crisp, clean sheets, you would have felt a deep sense of security, a quiet confidence that your bed was a haven of health and a quiet symbol of a new, progressive age. You weren't just sleeping, you were sleeping sanitarily. As we move past the era of sanitary beds, we arrive at a truly revolutionary and very bouncy invention. The bed frame and the mattress are about to become a dynamic duo. We're in the late 19th century, and the box spring is about to change everything. For thousands of years, the mattress rested on a hard surface, a stone platform, a pile of reeds, a network of ropes, or a solid wooden frame. The comfort came from the mattress itself, whether it was filled with straw, feathers, or corn husks. But now, we have a whole new layer of support. The box spring is exactly what it sounds like, a box filled with springs. It's a wooden frame with a grid of metal coils on top, all covered in a layer of cloth. The mattress would then rest on this box, creating a two-part system that offered a level of support and resilience that was unheard of before. This was a game changer. The box spring did two things. First, it absorbed a lot of the shock and movement, making for a much more comfortable and quiet sleep. No more creaking ropes or groaning wood. It was a kind of silent partner to the mattress. Second, it protected the mattress itself. By providing an even, consistent surface, it prevented the mattress from sagging and lumping, extending its life and making it much more durable. It was a marriage of form and function, a quiet revolution in the bedroom. It's a bit like the difference between a bicycle with and without suspension. You can still ride it, but one is a much smoother, more enjoyable experience. The box spring was the suspension system for the bed, a quiet innovation that made a good night's sleep even better. One quirky tidbit about this era is that early box springs were often very heavy and difficult to move, and they were a significant investment for a family. So, once you had one, you had it for life. The springs themselves were often hand-tied, a meticulous and time-consuming process that required a high level of skill. Historians still argue whether the invention of the box spring was a direct response to the failings of the rope bed, or if it was part of a larger trend toward mechanical innovation and the use of metal in furniture. Was it a specific solution to an old problem, or a general symptom of a new technological age? It was likely a bit of both. The need for a better support system was there, and the technology to create it was finally available. The bed was no longer a static piece of furniture. It was a system, a two-part harmony of comfort and support. And as you lie there, feeling the gentle bounce of the springs beneath your mattress, you would feel a new sense of security and peace, a quiet hum of innovation that was rocking you to sleep. It was a gentle, scientific revolution in your own bedroom. The 20th century brings with it a complete reimagining of the bed, moving beyond simple comfort and into the realm of radical new ideas. We are in the 1960s, a time of social and cultural revolution, and the bed is about to get a liquid makeover. You are at a friend's house, and you're told to sit on the bed. You approach cautiously, and as you sit, you feel an odd, wave-like motion. You're on a waterbed. This was a short-lived but incredibly popular trend, a kind of cultural moment that captured the free-spirited, experimental vibe of the era. The waterbed was a vinyl bladder filled with a specific amount of water, all sitting inside a wooden frame. It was a kind of antebed, a piece of furniture that defied all the traditional notions of firmness and stability. The idea for the modern waterbed actually came from a graduate student in San Francisco, Charles Hall, who was trying to create a more comfortable chair for his thesis project. He experimented with different liquids and eventually realized that a large mattress filled with temperature-controlled water was the ultimate in personalized comfort. The water would contour perfectly to your body, eliminating pressure points and offering a kind of weightless sensation. It was a very different kind of sleep, a bit like floating on a gentle indoor lake. But of course, it had its problems. It was incredibly heavy, making it difficult to move. It could get a little too wavy if you or your partner moved around, and a leak could be a catastrophic mess. But for a few decades, it was the ultimate in cool, counterculture sleeping. It was a bed that made a statement, a kind of liquid protest against the rigid, traditional beds of the past. One quirky tidbit about the waterbed is that it was initially marketed as a therapeutic device for people with back problems or for burn victims, as it eliminated pressure points and allowed for even weight distribution. The comfort was so great that it quickly moved from a medical device to a mainstream consumer item. Historians still argue whether the waterbed was a genuine step forward in sleep technology or simply a fad that reflected the hedonistic spirit of the times. Was it a valid pursuit of a new kind of comfort or a fleeting gimmick? It was likely both. It was a product of a culture that was willing to try anything and everything, even if it was a little bit impractical. The bed was no longer just a piece of furniture. It was a form of self-expression, a way of saying, I'm not going to sleep like everyone else. It was a bed with an attitude, a quiet, gurgling rebellion against the norm. As our journey through the history of the bed continues, we turn from the liquid comfort of the waterbed to a triumph of urban ingenuity, the Murphy bed. We are in the early 20th century, a time of rapid urbanization and a new challenge: how to fit a comfortable life into a small space. The Murphy bed, a clever piece of furniture that folds up into a closet or wall, was the answer to a problem that many city dwellers still face today. It was a space-saving marvel, a bed that disappeared during the day, allowing a single room to serve as both a living area and a bedroom. It was a kind of spatial magic trick, a bed that was there when you needed it and gone when you didn't. The bed was named after its inventor, William L. Murphy, who patented his disappearing bed in 1912. The story goes that he was living in a small one-room apartment in San Francisco and wanted to turn his bedroom into a parlor for entertaining guests. His invention, a bed on a hinge, was the perfect solution. It was a simple but brilliant idea, a bed that bowed to the needs of modern, compact living. The bed would fold up vertically into a cabinet or a closet, and the wall unit itself could be decorated to look like a bookshelf or a piece of built-in furniture. It was a quiet revolution in interior design, a bed that allowed people to live a more flexible, multi-purpose life. One quirky tidbit about the Murphy bed is that it was often featured in silent films and early comedies, with the bed suddenly folding up or collapsing on an unsuspecting character. It was a source of comedic chaos, a bed with a mind of its own. Historians still argue whether the Murphy bed was a luxury for the wealthy who had the space for it, or a necessity for the working class who lived in small apartments. Was it a symbol of clever living or a sign of urban compromise? It seems to have been both. It was a bed that democratized space, allowing people from all walks of life to have a place to sleep and a place to live, all in one room. It was a quiet, unassuming piece of furniture that changed the way we thought about space. And as you imagine that bed folding quietly back into the wall, you can appreciate the genius of a bed that knows when to make an entrance and when to simply disappear. We leave the clever urban landscape of the Murphy bed and enter a new kind of space, the hospital ward. Here, the bed is no longer just for rest. It's a medical tool, a piece of equipment designed to aid in healing and recovery. The hospital bed is a triumph of function over form, a bed that is entirely focused on the needs of the patient and the convenience of the caregiver. We are in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and with the rise of modern medicine, the bed undergoes a complete revaluation. It needs to be adjustable, easy to move, and, most importantly, sanitary. The simple metal bed frame of the Victorian era is now motorized and articulated, a kind of mechanical marvel. The hospital bed's evolution is a quiet story of human compassion and ingenuity. Early versions were simple metal frames, but they quickly evolved. In 1815, a British surgeon, Dr. James Andrew, designed a bed with an adjustable headrest. In the late 19th century, a more advanced version with a segmented frame that could be bent at a hinge was developed. But the real game changer was the three-segment bed, which was invented in the early 20th century. This bed had a movable headrest, a knee break, and a footrest, allowing the patient to be placed in a variety of comfortable and medically necessary positions. It was a kind of gentle, silent assistant, a bed that could raise a patient's head to help them breathe or elevate their legs to improve circulation. The crank on the side of the bed was a staple of every hospital ward, a kind of mechanical metronome that silently kept time with the patient's recovery. This was a major leap forward in patient care. The adjustable bed made it easier for nurses to care for patients, and it made the patient's stay in the hospital a little more comfortable. It's a bit like a modern-day ergonomic chair, but for your entire body. It was a bed that was a partner in your healing, a quiet, reassuring presence in a world of illness and uncertainty. One quirky tidbit about the hospital bed is that the electric adjustable hospital bed was invented by an American named Willis Gatch in 1909. He was a medical professor at Indiana University and was looking for a way to reduce the strain on nurses who had to manually adjust patients' beds all day. His invention, with its many gears and levers, was a huge success. Historians still argue whether the hospital bed was a result of medical necessity or a technological advancement in its own right. Did the need for a better patient bed drive the invention? Or did the invention of new mechanical systems find a perfect application in the hospital setting? It was likely a little of both. The bed was a perfect fusion of human need and mechanical ingenuity. And as you lie there, imagining yourself in a hospital bed, you can appreciate the quiet, functional beauty of a bed that is entirely focused on helping you get better. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep, it promises a healthier tomorrow. Moving from the sterile, functional world of the hospital bed, we find ourselves in the early 20th century, where the lines between a bed and a couch are beginning to blur. This is the era of the daybed, a piece of furniture that is both a comfortable place to sit during the day and a perfectly serviceable bed at night. The daybed often associated with the cozy, rustic style of the American arts and crafts movement, was a practical and stylish solution for homes that didn't have a lot of extra space. It was a bed with a dual purpose, a kind of lazy, laid-back cousin to the more formal sofa. The style is often called the Sleepy Hollow style, after the popular play and stories of the era, which conjures up images of a peaceful rural life. It's a very different vibe from the rigid, sanitary beds of the Victorians, isn't it? It's a bed that says, "I'm here to help you relax, no matter the time of day." The daybed was often a simple wooden frame with a mattress on top that was covered with a bedspread and pillows. During the day, it looked like a cozy couch, a place to read a book or have a cup of tea. At night, you would simply remove the decorative pillows and use it as a bed. It was a perfect piece of furniture for a small home, a guest house, or a sunny porch. It was a very gentle, unassuming piece of furniture that spoke to a new, more relaxed way of living. It was a bed that didn't demand attention. It simply waited for you to come and relax. One quirky tidbit about the daybed is that it was often used by people who suffered from chronic illnesses like tuberculosis, as it allowed them to rest during the day in a sunlit room, which was believed to be a kind of treatment. The bed was no longer just for a full night's sleep. It was a tool for quiet, daytime recuperation. Historians still argue whether the popularity of the daybed was a result of a new emphasis on leisure and relaxation, or if it was a practical response to the changing dynamics of family life and smaller homes. Was it a cultural shift or a functional necessity? It was likely a bit of both. It was a bed that adapted to the needs of a new century, a quiet, versatile piece of furniture that was always ready for a nap. And as you lie there, imagining yourself on a sun-drenched porch, you can appreciate the genius of a bed that doesn't just know how to sleep, but also knows how to live. It was a bed that was a home, a gentle and versatile friend. Our journey takes a turn toward the east, from the American daybed to the quiet simplicity of the Japanese futon. The word itself, which simply means mattress and bedding in Japanese, describes a centuries-old tradition that offers a completely different approach to sleep. Instead of a heavy, immovable piece of furniture, the futon is a flexible, mobile solution for living in a small space. You are in a traditional Japanese home, a serene space with tatami mats on the floor. At night, you simply unroll your futon, a thin, quilted mattress, directly onto the floor. It's a very direct, grounded approach to sleep. In the morning, you roll it up and store it in a closet, freeing up the room for other uses. It's a bed that knows its place, a quiet, unassuming piece of furniture that is a perfect example of a culture that values flexibility and a clever use of space. The futon is not just a mattress. It's a complete sleeping system. You have the shikibuton, the mattress itself, the cakebuton, a kind of fluffy comforter, and the makura, a small pillow often filled with buckwheat hulls. The pillow, in particular, is a stark contrast to the soft pillows we are used to. It's firm and supportive, a perfect example of a culture that values posture and support over pure softness. It's a bit like the difference between a supportive athletic shoe and a fluffy slipper. They both serve a purpose, but one is designed for function and the other for comfort. The futon, with its firm surface, is believed to be beneficial for the back and posture. It's a bed that doesn't just promise rest, it promises a healthier way of sleeping. The futon's journey to the West in the late 20th century was a kind of cultural exchange. Westerners, used to heavy, expensive beds, were fascinated by this simple, flexible solution. But of course, the Western futon evolved. Instead of a thin mattress for the floor, it often became a thicker, more traditional style mattress that sat on a wooden frame, a bed that folded into a couch. It was a fusion of two ideas, the Japanese futon and the American daybed. It's a great example of how a cultural object can change and adapt as it travels across the world. Historians still argue whether the traditional futon's design was a result of a lack of space in a densely populated country, or if it was a deliberate cultural choice based on a minimalist philosophy. Was it a necessity or a choice? It seems to have been both. It was a brilliant, practical solution to a common problem, and it also happened to fit perfectly with a culture that values simplicity, elegance, and a deep connection to the earth. And as you lie there, feeling the firm support of the tatami mats and the gentle weight of the futon, you can appreciate the quiet wisdom of a bed that knows how to disappear when the sun comes up. It's a peaceful, minimalist approach to rest that has a lot to teach us about a good night's sleep. As we enter the 20th century, the bed ceases to be just a piece of furniture and becomes an object of scientific inquiry. The modern era brings with it the dawn of sleep science and a new understanding of how a bed can affect our health and well-being. We're in a sleep lab now, a quiet, dimly lit room filled with sensors and wires. Scientists are watching a person's sleep, monitoring their brainwaves, eye movements, and breathing. The goal is to understand the mysterious process of sleep and how the bed, that silent partner in our nightly rest, can be optimized for our health. This is the beginning of the era of ergonomics in the bedroom, a time when beds are designed not just for comfort, but for science. This new focus on sleep science led to some fascinating discoveries. Scientists realized that a bed that was too soft could cause your spine to curve, leading to back pain. A bed that was too hard could create pressure points, leading to aches and pains. The ideal bed, they found, was one that offered a perfect blend of support and comfort. A bed that kept your spine in a neutral, straight line while still cushioning your body. This was the birth of the modern mattress, with its carefully engineered layers of foam, coils, and padding. It was a complete reversal of the centuries-old belief that a bed should be either a soft, feathery cloud or a hard, unforgiving surface. The ideal bed was a balanced compromise, a quiet testament to the idea that a good night's sleep was a scientific pursuit. One quirky tidbit from this era is the fact that early sleep studies were often done in very strange environments, with researchers using a kind of reverse psychology to try and get people to fall asleep. They would tell them not to fall asleep, a kind of psychological trick to relax their conscious mind and let their body take over. Historians still argue whether the A mattress's firmness is more important than its composition, or vice versa. For a good night's sleep, was it the coils, the foam, or the combination that was the true key to comfort? The answer is still being debated, but the fact remains that the bed had become a product of serious scientific research, a far cry from the simple pile of reeds of our ancestors. And as you lie there, feeling the quiet support of your modern mattress, you can appreciate the thousands of hours of research that went into making it a perfect place to rest your head. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep. It promises a healthier, more rested you. The science of sleep gives birth to a new kind of mattress, one that feels completely different from anything that came before. We are in the late 20th century, and a quiet revolution is taking place, a revolution in softness and support. You are lying on a memory foam mattress, and it feels like nothing else. The material, a kind of viscous polyurethane foam, gently contours to your body, creating a kind of personalized impression that holds you in place. It's a bit like lying on a very firm, very gentle cloud that knows exactly where your hips and shoulders are. It's a new kind of comfort, one that is both supportive and enveloping at the same time. Memory foam, also known as temper foam, was actually developed by NASA in the 1960s. Their goal was not to make a more comfortable bed, but to create a material that could cushion astronauts during liftoff, absorbing the immense pressure and G-forces of space travel. The material was designed to be shock-absorbent and to evenly distribute body weight, a perfect solution for the rigors of space. The public, however, quickly realized that a material that was perfect for space travel was also perfect for sleep. The technology was commercialized, and soon, memory foam mattresses were everywhere. It was a kind of high-tech luxury, a bed that promised a level of personalized comfort that was unheard of before. Of course, the first memory foam mattresses had their problems. They were often very dense and would retain heat, leading to a hot and uncomfortable sleep. The early mattresses also had a very slow rebound time, meaning they would stay in the shape of your body for a long time, making it difficult to turn over. But over time, the technology improved, and modern memory foam mattresses are now designed with open-cell structures that allow for better airflow and faster rebound times. It was a quiet journey from a space-age material to a mainstream consumer product. One quirky tidbit from this era is that early memory foam commercials often showed a person's hand pressing into the foam, leaving a perfect impression only for it to slowly rebound to its original shape. It was a visual cue that was meant to show the product's high-tech nature. Historians still argue whether memory foam was a genuine step forward in mattress design, or if it was simply a marketing triumph. Did it truly improve the quality of sleep, or did it just create a new kind of sensation that people were willing to pay for? It seems likely that it was a mix of both. It was a triumph of material science, and it also happened to be a very effective way to sell a new kind of comfort. And as you lie there, feeling the gentle, enveloping support of your memory foam mattress, you can appreciate the quiet journey of a material from the vacuum of space to the cozy comfort of your bedroom. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep, it promises a space-age one. From the plush, contouring comfort of memory foam, we continue our journey into the quiet, mechanical marvel of the adjustable bed frame. We're now in the early 21st century, and the bed is no longer a static piece of furniture. It's a dynamic, customizable system. What was once an expensive and specialized piece of equipment for a hospital is now a common feature in a home. The adjustable bed allows you to raise your head, your feet, or both, with the simple push of a button. It's a bed that bows to your every whim, a kind of silent, mechanical servant that knows exactly how you like to sleep. It's a complete revolution in personalized comfort. The invention of the adjustable bed for home use was a quiet, unassuming step forward. It began as a niche product for people with specific medical needs, like snoring or acid reflux. But consumers quickly realized that the benefits went far beyond medical necessity. You could raise your head to read a book or watch a movie without propping up a dozen pillows. You could raise your feet to relieve pressure after a long day of standing. It was a bed that adapted to your lifestyle, not the other way around. It was a bed that was always in motion, always ready to find the perfect angle for your comfort. It's a bit like the difference between a simple chair and a fully reclining lazyboy. They both get the job done, but one is a much more luxurious and customizable experience. One quirky tidbit about this era is that the adjustable bed was initially marketed to an older, more health-conscious demographic, but its appeal quickly spread to younger people who saw it as a new kind of media hub, a place to watch movies and play video games in perfect comfort. The bed was no longer just for sleeping, it was for living. Historians still argue whether the adjustable bed's popularity was a result of a new emphasis on personal comfort, or if it was a clever marketing tactic by mattress companies to sell higher-priced beds. Was it a genuine need or a manufactured desire? It was likely a little bit of both. The need for a more comfortable and customizable sleep was always there, and the technology to fulfill that need was finally available at an affordable price. The bed was no longer just a place to sleep. It was a command center for relaxation. And as you lie there, feeling the gentle, silent hum of the motor as it adjusts your position, you can appreciate the quiet luxury of a bed that knows exactly what you need before you even know it yourself. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep, it promises a perfectly positioned one. From the quiet mechanics of the adjustable bed, we enter a new frontier, the smart bed. We are in the present day, and the bed is no longer just a piece of furniture. It's a technological hub, a silent partner in your health and well-being. The bed itself is now equipped with a whole host of sensors that can track your sleep patterns, monitor your heart rate and breathing, and even adjust the firmness of the mattress automatically. It's a bed that knows you, a kind of gentle, passive guardian that watches over you as you sleep. It's a complete fusion of comfort and data. The technology is quite clever. Sensors, often integrated into the mattress itself, can detect your body's movements, the rhythm of your breathing, and the beat of your heart. This data is then sent to a smartphone app where you can see a detailed breakdown of your night's rest. You can see when you were in deep sleep, when you were in REM sleep, and when you were tossing and turning. The bed is no longer just a place to sleep. It's a kind of personal sleep lab. Some smart beds can even detect when you're snoring and will gently raise your head to open your airways. A kind of silent, automatic intervention that doesn't require you to wake up. This is the bed is becoming a proactive tool for health, a kind of early warning system for a variety of conditions. It can tell you when you're not getting enough sleep, when your heart rate is elevated, or when your breathing is irregular. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep, it promises a healthier life. It's a bit like having a silent, invisible health coach in your bedroom. One quirky tidbit about this era is that some smart beds can even connect to other smart home devices. Your bed can tell the thermostat to lower the temperature when you fall asleep, or tell the coffee machine to start brewing when you wake up. It's a fully integrated, automated experience. Historians still argue whether this constant data collection is a good thing or a bad thing for our sleep. Does it help us improve our sleep, or does it make us more anxious about it? Is the bed a tool for health or a source of stress? The answer, as always, is likely a mix of both. The technology is new, and we're still figuring out how to use it in a way that is truly beneficial. And as you lie there on your smart bed, you can appreciate the silent, ongoing conversation between you, your bed, and your phone, a quiet technological symphony in your own bedroom. From the high-tech world of the smart bed, we now turn to a unique and very small solution to a modern problem: the capsule hotel. We are in late 20th century Japan, a country known for its densely populated cities and its ingenuity in creating efficient, space-saving solutions. The capsule hotel is a perfect example of this. It's not a bed in a room. It's a room that is a bed, a single, self-contained unit, just large enough for one person to lie down, a kind of horizontal coffin of comfort. It was a bed for the urban traveler, the overworked salaryman who missed his last train, or the tourist on a tight budget. It was a bed that was a pod, a private, futuristic cocoon for a single night's sleep. The first capsule hotel was opened in Osaka in 1979, and it was a smash hit. The idea was simple: a series of fiberglass or plastic capsules stacked on top of each other, with just enough room for a person to lie down, maybe watch a small television, and store a few personal items. It was a new kind of accommodation, a bed that was both private and communal at the same time. The capsules were arranged in a large room, and while you had your own small, private space, you were also a part of a larger community of sleepers. It was a bed that was a compromise, a trade-off between privacy and affordability. It was a far cry from the opulent, four-poster beds of the past, a kind of minimalist, futuristic rebellion against the idea of the bed as a grand, luxurious object. One quirky tidbit about the capsule hotel is that many of them have very strict rules about noise and personal belongings. You're expected to be a quiet, respectful neighbor to the person sleeping above or below you, a kind of silent agreement between strangers. This highlights the Japanese cultural value of politeness and respect for others, even in a very unusual setting. Historians still argue whether the capsule hotel was a product of Japan's unique urban density or a sign of a larger, global trend toward minimalist, efficient living. Was it a specific solution to a local problem or a general symptom of a new, space-conscious world? It was likely a bit of both. It was a brilliant, practical solution that also happened to capture the imagination of a new generation of travelers and urbanites. And as you imagine yourself in that tiny, futuristic pod, you can appreciate the quiet comfort of a bed that is entirely focused on a single, solitary purpose: to give you a good night's rest, no matter where you are. We leave the comfort of Earth behind and journey into a new and very unsettling sleeping environment, the vacuum of space. We are on the International Space Station, orbiting the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour, and the very concept of a bed has become completely irrelevant. There is no up or down, no gravity to keep you in place. So, how do you sleep? You sleep vertically, horizontally, or even upside down. It's a bed that doesn't exist, a kind of anti-bed that is defined by the absence of gravity. It's a bed for the ultimate urbanite, a person who doesn't need a room, a bed, or even a floor. It's a bed that is just a body, suspended in a quiet, dark void. The solution is simple, but clever. Astronauts sleep in small, personal sleeping quarters that are no bigger than a phone booth. Inside, they have a sleeping bag that is strapped to the wall. They simply zip themselves into the bag and float there, a kind of human caterpillar in a cozy, weightless cocoon. The sleeping bag is attached to the wall to prevent the astronaut from floating around and bumping into things while they sleep. It's a bed that is entirely about containment, a way of keeping a body in one place in a world with no friction. It's a very different kind of sleep from the one we are used to, a kind of peaceful, weightless slumber. But it's not without its challenges. The lack of gravity can cause astronauts to feel disoriented, and the constant noise of the station can make it difficult to fall asleep. One quirky tidbit about sleeping in space is that many astronauts say they have vivid, often very strange dreams. Some report feeling like they are falling, a kind of primal fear that is completely irrelevant in a world with no gravity. Historians still argue whether the lack of gravity affects the quality of a person's sleep, or if it is just a matter of getting used to the new environment. Is it the environment or our perception of it that matters? The answer is still being researched, but the fact remains that the bed, in its most basic form, is a human need that transcends even the boundaries of our planet. And as you lie there, imagining yourself floating in that small, quiet sleeping pod, you can appreciate the genius of a bed that is simply a bag and a wall, a quiet, effective solution to a problem that our ancestors could never have imagined. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep, it promises a cosmic one. From the weightless slumber of space, we now come back down to Earth, but with a new, futuristic twist. We are in the present day, and the bed is no longer a passive object. It's a proactive partner in your health. The future of sleep technology is a kind of gentle, silent, anticipatory guardian, a bed that can monitor your vitals and even predict illnesses before you even know you're sick. It's a bed that knows you better than you know yourself. The technology is based on a concept called biometric monitoring. Sensors, often hidden within the mattress itself, can track a whole host of data points. They can monitor your heart rate, your breathing rate, your body temperature, and even the subtle movements of your limbs. This data is then analyzed by a computer program that looks for anomalies. A slight increase in your breathing rate might be a sign of a respiratory infection. A subtle change in your heart rate might be a sign of stress. The bed, with its quiet, unobtrusive technology, can spot these changes long before you feel the symptoms. It's a kind of early warning system, a bed that can tell you to slow down or see a doctor before a minor issue becomes a major problem. It's a very different kind of comfort, one that is based on information rather than softness. This is a quiet, ongoing revolution in the world of personal health. The bed is becoming a new kind of medical device, a piece of equipment that is always on and always monitoring. It's a bit like a personal, at-home diagnostic lab, but one that is completely integrated into your daily life. And it's not just for predicting illness. It can also give you advice on how to get a better night's sleep. It might tell you to go to bed a little earlier, to lower the temperature in the room, or to avoid caffeine after a certain time. It's a bed that doesn't just know you, it helps you. One quirky tidbit about this technology is that some of these beds are so advanced that they can even give you a kind of sleep score, a number that tells you how well you slept and what you can do to improve. Historians still argue whether this constant monitoring is a good thing for our mental health. Does it lead to a kind of hypochondria, a constant worry about our health, or does it give us a new level of control and agency? It's a question that we are still trying to answer, but the fact remains that the bed, in its most advanced form, is a completely new kind of object, and as you lie there, on your high-tech, proactive bed, you can appreciate the quiet, gentle hum of a bed that is always watching over you, always ready to help. It's a bed that doesn't just promise a good night's sleep. It promises a healthier, more informed you. We've explored the bed as a place of rest, a symbol of status, a tool for health, and a piece of technology. But what about the rest of the world? Our journey has been very Eurocentric, and it's time to recognize that not everyone sleeps on a raised platform with a mattress and pillows. The bed, as we know it, is a cultural invention, and many cultures have found different and equally effective ways to rest. We're now going on a global tour of sleeping habits, from the floor to the trees. It's a quiet, eye-opening look at how a simple human need can be met in 1,000 different ways. In many parts of Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, sleeping on the floor is the norm. It's not a sign of poverty or discomfort. It's a cultural tradition that is believed to be healthier for your back. In Japan, we saw the futon, but in many other cultures, a simple mat or a few blankets are all you need. You can almost feel the firm, supportive surface beneath you, a kind of gentle pressure that is believed to align your spine and improve your posture. It's a very different kind of sleep, one that is more grounded and connected to the earth. In some parts of the world, sleeping on the floor is not an option. In the Amazon, for example, sleeping on the ground is a recipe for a bad night's rest, full of insects, snakes, and other unwelcome creatures. So, what do? They sleep in hammocks. The hammock, a simple sling of woven fabric or rope, is a perfect solution. It keeps you off the ground, allows for a cool breeze to circulate around you, and offers a gentle, rocking motion that is a natural sleep aid. It's a very different kind of bed, one that is suspended in the air, a kind of quiet, airborne cocoon. It's a bed that is a kind of gentle protest against the ground, a floating island of comfort in a world of potential discomfort. One quirky tidbit about hammocks is that some cultures believe that the rocking motion of the hammock is not just soothing, but is also a way of connecting with the spiritual world. It's a bed that is a kind of meditative tool, a quiet, rocking bridge to a different state of consciousness. Historians still argue whether the habit of sleeping on the floor or in a hammock was a result of practical necessity, or if it was a cultural choice based on a deeper belief system. Was it a matter of survival or a matter of philosophy? It was likely both. The bed, no matter its form, is a reflection of a culture's values and beliefs. And as you lie there, imagining yourself on a cool, firm mat or in a gentle, rocking hammock, you can appreciate the quiet wisdom of a bed that is perfectly adapted to its environment. We've now arrived at the end of our quiet journey. We started with a simple pile of leaves in a cave 77,000 years ago and have traveled through thousands of years of human history, from the gold-leafed beds of the pharaohs to the quiet, floating sleeping bags of astronauts. The bed, in all its forms, has been a constant, a silent witness to the entire human story. It has been a place of birth and a place of death, a place of love and a place of solitude, a stage for power and a quiet sanctuary for the weary. It's a piece of furniture that is both deeply personal and universally human. Think back to those early days, to the Neolithic platforms and the medieval pallets. The bed was a place of communal warmth and survival, a kind of shared blanket against the cold, dark world. Then it became a symbol of status, a grand theatrical piece of art that announced a person's importance to the world. And then, as our world became more complex, the bed became a tool for comfort, a product of science and a marvel of technology. It went from a pile of reeds to a high-tech health monitor, a quiet revolution that happened in our own bedrooms. The bed is a reflection of our fears and our hopes, our need for security and our desire for progress. Historians still argue about the true purpose of the bed. Was it invented for comfort, for safety, or for status? The answer is likely all of the above. The bed is a perfect example of a human invention that serves a basic need, but also reflects a culture's deepest values. The bed you sleep in tonight is not just a place to rest. It's a living piece of history, a product of thousands of years of human ingenuity. It's a testament to the fact that even in our sleep, we are still a part of the long, quiet journey of human progress. The story of the bed is the story of us. It's a quiet, gentle story full of tiny innovations and big ideas. And now, this story is over, and it's time for you to become a part of it. Take a moment to appreciate the comfort and security of your own bed, a piece of furniture that is a quiet reflection of all that has come before. The air is still now. The sounds of history have faded away. All that is left is the gentle hum of the fan, the soft rustle of your sheets, and the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. Your body is settling in, your mind is letting go, and you can feel yourself sinking deeper and deeper into the quiet comfort of your own bed. The world can wait. The story is over. It's time to close your eyes, to let go of the day's worries, and to simply rest. The bed is waiting for you, a quiet, peaceful island in a vast, dark world.